Sweet. Well, we'll go ahead and get rolling. So could you go ahead and introduce yourself with your full name and your title and everything?
Yeah, my name's Eric Gilbert, and I'm the CEO of Duck Club Entertainment. I'm one of the co-founders of Duck Club and Tree Fort. So.
Yeah, awesome. So we're wrapping up basically Flipside Fest today. How has it been, just this whole festival, the first time for Flipside especially? How has it been from your perspective so far?
It's been a lot of fun. I think the team kind of got into it. We sort of talked ourselves into doing it, to be frank, for a few good reasons, and to see it all come to fruition feels very, very worth it. And it's been so fun with all the Garden City partners, and I've just loved a lot of scrappy little stages. Felt like a bunch of backyard punk shows, and just feels like a lot of, I don't know, it just reminds me a lot of where I came from with music and stuff. So just toured for a long time, playing a lot of backyard punk shows. So it felt good.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of, I'd like to get just kind of how did you get to this point where you're co-founder of Tree Fort, leading Duck Club, leading Flipside Fest? Where did this originate, and how's the story kind of been paved out, and especially with Floating Witch's Head too?
Yeah. Can get it started a lot of places, but really, when I was doing college radio, really I was up in Moscow. Just to tie it to this conversation, it's kind of college radio opened my world to music in a whole different way. And from there, I was an engineering student at the time. I ended up becoming a music student, doing all this stuff. So and just wanted to play in bands, and so started playing in bands. And then when I was done with college, my wife and I started a band called Finn Riggins when we were up there, and we just started touring the country just because we wanted to. And we ended up signing to a label out of Portland called 1011 Empire in their early days, and then spent 5 years just living in a van, touring the whole country, and playing festivals like CMJ in New York City, South by Southwest, Music Fest Northwest in Portland, a lot of these multi-venue festivals. And so and then a lot of that was just also being, at that time, was there weren't a lot of Idaho bands out on the road. Built Spill was out there, but everybody was just curious there. They didn't think there was a music scene here, and in some ways there wasn't, but there was, just no one knew about it. So that started this whole thing as we started coming home more and started coming off the road. Basically, one way to look at it is there was one tour in 2010. We were out for 80 days, and we only stayed at a hotel 7 times. So we were sleeping on all these other people's floors who were in bands. And then so when we stopped touring as much, they were all we're going to come to town. So then just started helping them set up their shows, sort of paying it back and letting them sleep on our floors. And then in 2011, met Lori Chandro, who was she was a music fan, and she was kind of entering the music scene externally, but curious to, she was kind of exploring wanting to open a venue at the time. So I was throwing a bunch of DIY shows, and we had a bunch of mutual friends that connected us, and she just needed some help putting on some shows. And at that time, a few friends of mine were talking about doing a multi-venue festival here, just because we're going to all these other people's parties, and I love that style of festival because you get all these bands together, we all get to see each other's sets, and it feels a little bit more like a communal gathering of the touring scene and stuff. So love the idea of doing something like that here, and so that's kind of how Tree Fort started.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. And I see a lot of parallels with my experience to yours, especially because coming from University Pulse Radio at Boise State and being so deeply involved in the music community, the local scene here, it's almost picturesque, it's the same thing that you were describing. One big thing, one point that you brought up, and one thing I noticed is, especially in Idaho, before coming to Boise, I just knew, of course, Built to Spill. Of course, that's the big band everybody knows, and that's about it. But there's such a huge just melting pot of bands here in town, and it seems like Tree Fort is definitely doing a great job of amplifying that. But I just wanted to kind of talk from your perspective. What do you think of what's the goings on right now? What's going on with all the local bands now? Because it's just an explosion.
Yeah, I'm really excited about where the scene is now. And like you said, it's an amplification. In a lot of ways, the scene was cool, pre-Tree Fort, and there was things happening. One thing, and it's still what I love is where we're at now. It's definitely it's really blossoming. But what the roots of this sort of, it's just like an arts for art's sake more of approach with bands here. You know, I think not being so entrenched in like the industry and like in LA or somewhere else, people are just making cool music and trying a bunch of things, but the problem previously is there was no way to like kind of like work their way up into the national scene from here, so people would kind of try things for a while and then move. You know, now I feel like there's this whole new wave because people see a way to like connect to the national scene while staying in Boise. So we're kind of the best of both worlds right now, like some really creative music happening while starting to get visibility from other places, and it's super exciting.
No, totally. And I mean, yeah, like you said, Treefort's been just the perfect opportunity bringing that up, which is amazing. It's just amazing work that y'all are able to pull off.
Yeah.
Kind of dialing back to Flipside specifically, I've been chatting a lot with a lot of people attending and everything, and the common theme I've been picking up from people that have attended both Treefort and Flipside is just, this is such a nice, cool, laid back, chilled out version of Treefort. Just a nice, very chill, not anxiety inducing just because there's so much. It's very, you know, kind of, I guess, scaled back, but in a good way. And I was wondering kind of your thoughts on that and how you guys have just, what was your approach for structuring Flipside, especially having it, capitalizing on that fall Treefort that we had, and additionally just kind of, for the first time being Flipside, kind of what has been your perspective of how to like structure this?
Yeah, a lot of that, I mean, part of it was just for the team itself. We didn't, you know, it was cool doing 2 Treeforts last year, but it was a lot, right? And so we liked the idea of doing a fall thing, but, you know, as we started ideating on this, it's like, yeah, let's just do something smaller. And for the team, it's been way more chill too, which is nice. And, you know, that's just kind of borne out for the rest of us too. You know, so a big part of this one, you know, during Treefort, and we have a lot of local bands play, but there's actually more from out of state, out of the country. With this one, it's actually a majority local bands and with some cool touring bands. So it was, some of the approach was like, yeah, let's just like get all the local bands together and kind of celebrate that, and you know, we'll work with some local partners. The other thing, there's very few like actual venues here in Garden City, so it was all just kind of like stages in different spots, and so that, you know, that took a little work, but yeah, I think keeping it chill was by design. We're kind of starting with us, but also feeling like we could all have fun. And yeah, you know, I think I love how Treefort is, like, it's just so much, but it's been nice to have three days, just like 80 bands, and like you said, like it's a lot more chill from the experience side. Yeah, it's been nice. Plus, like Garden City just itself just feels chill. It's cool. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like the river and the greenbelt just bring that you know, calmness over into the whole little town area. And another thing I want to kind of elaborate on is just, what are some of the things that you've learned from Treefort and running Treefort that you're trying to implement with Flipside Fest? And additionally, are there any takeaways from, especially, you know, doing that fall Treefort and then over the pandemic, anything you're implementing from just the past decade of Treefort and trying to place into Flipside?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that our team just kind of knows how to do these style of festivals now, and knows how to like not get overwhelmed by it and just think of it all as just a series of small shows. And so I think there's lessons, you know, from doing the, you know, so it was kind of a running joke with the team, because every time people asked us if we were starting to stress out, and we're like, no, we're fine. It's like only 80 bands. Other people are like, only 80 bands? That's a lot of bands. But for us, it just was. So I think just the scale of it. And so I think lessons. I think the biggest thing that, you know, with Treefort, like we want people to discover things that they haven't seen. So part of that is like when we build a schedule and stuff, trying to like, you know, mix things up in ways that lead people to find things that they might not have found otherwise. Which, just to bring it back to college radio, because it's just, you know, college. One thing so cool about college radio is it is seeking what's new and what's up and coming. But then as a DJ or something, you're trying to get people to listen. So you have to kind of mix in what might bring them in, and then you sneak them what you're trying to get them to find. And granted, people come to college radio and they come to things that we do because they're seeking that too. But anyways, I just like that game from the curation side of, you know, just trying to surprise people. So
yeah. So of course, Tree Fort. We just got done with the 10th Tree Fort, 10 years of Tree Fort, and obviously putting together a festival in 2012 is way different than it is, putting it together now. So I wanted to ask, how has Tree Fort and just putting on Tree Fort progressed, and what has just developed over the years?
Yeah, I think what's been interesting during Flipside this week for the team is like this has felt a little bit more like the first year of Tree Fort just in scale. Actually, it's smaller than the first year of Tree Fort. It was like, as things grow and you're in the midst of it, it's hard to really see the incremental, realize it. But in reflection, the team has grown so much, and we've just added so many different pieces over time, which is awesome. But it is just such a big project now. I think the biggest thing with then you have a city that's growing too, right? And so then when Tree Fort started, it was activating a lot of empty spaces, empty parking lots, and so the space that we have available is always changing, which is kind of cool. It always leads us to new things, but it means we've never had a year where we know what the setup exactly is going to be, and we just do the same thing again. But I think that keeping us on our toes like that has been just exciting for the team too. The team kind of likes to problem solve, so. We've just built a lot of sort of internal systems and just kind of understanding, and a lot of the team has been with us the whole time. So they're just like this great rapport, and we're like a family. So there are things that are easier than they were for sure when we were just figuring it out. Although I will say, doing it in a different location, it was a few times with Flipside, we're like, oh yeah, we're rusty on where to start, how to start from scratch, So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have those veterans on board, and then starting a whole brand new thing. That's what you need for sure. Kind of wrapping up, the last question I wanted to ask, and I think this is a question on everyone's mind, is just where do you and your team see Flipside Fest heading? Just given we're in the last day of it and everything, it's been such a great success for sure. Where do you see it in the future kind of heading?
Good question. Similar, to be honest with you, when we started Tree Fort, it was very much do one festival, and then it's been kind of an internal joke as we go, is we have a little bit more of a long-term plan now than we used to, but it was always just from festival to festival. So I think with Flipside, it was it's been great. I think we're very open to doing it again. We also recognize we're in a neighborhood that is changing, and I know all the locals that were involved have been really excited about it. So I think the dust will have to settle a little bit on that. I think we like the idea of having a fall festival. I think probably continue to keep it smaller, though. We liked that side of it too. So and it just kind of lends itself to some different approach. So. But no decisions have been made. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Do you have anything you'd like to shout out as we're wrapping up and everything? Any people?
Well, there's a lot of people. I just want to shout out college radio again. Thanks to University Pulse. I love you guys are out here, taking it in. Not only taking in the shows, but doing interviews with bands. I know you guys have been doing that a lot year round too, and it just adds a lot of value to the local music scene. Especially for the locals. But then when touring acts know there's people like you paying attention, it makes Boise a better stop for them. So thanks. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Yeah.